I used to love staying home alone when I was younger. Most kids I knew were scared of it, but I liked the quiet. That changed after our dog disappeared. His name was Rusty. Old Mutt, big enough to make strangers nervous. But honestly, he was lazy most of the time. Still, every night he'd sleep near the back door, like it was his job. We lived way out in northern Minnesota. Just wood everywhere. The kind of place where you don't hear traffic at night, only wind and the trees. Closest neighbor was probably a 10-minute drive away. Rusty went missing about a week before this happened. Dad thought maybe a wolf got him. We looked for him for 2 days straight and never found anything. No collar, nothing. After that, the house started feeling wrong at night. Not haunted or anything stupid like that. Just empty in a bad way. Without the dog around, every little sound suddenly stood out. Pipes creaking, floors settling, branches hitting the siding, stuff I'd probably heard 1,000 times before but never paid attention to. One Friday night, my parents drove into town to see my aunt. I stayed home because I had school stuff to finish and didn't feel like sitting around adults all night. I was downstairs playing Xbox when I heard the back door open. I remember immediately pausing the game because the sound was so specific. The handle turning slowly, then the door dragging slightly across the floor. Then it shut again. I sat there listening for a second, thinking maybe my parents forgot something and came back, but I never heard a car. I got up and checked the kitchen. Nothing. The door was closed. What freaked me out was the deadbolt. I know I locked it earlier after taking the trash outside. Now it was unlocked. At that point, I still wasn't fully panicking. I figured maybe I forgot, locked it again, and went back downstairs. About 10 minutes later, I heard footsteps upstairs. Not loud, just a couple slow steps. I actually called out, "Mom?" before my brain caught up and remembered they weren't home. That was the moment I started getting nervous. I muted the TV and listened. Nothing. Then maybe 30 seconds later, I heard another step, slow enough that it sounded careful. I grabbed my phone for the flashlight and walked into the kitchen again. The back door was cracked open maybe 2 inches. Cold air was coming inside, and I swear I never heard it open. That's the part that still bothers me. The house was quiet enough that I should have heard every little movement. I shut and locked the door again, then grabbed the kitchen knife because honestly I didn't know what else to do. I started checking rooms even though I really didn't want to. Laundry room, empty. Bathroom, empty. My parents' room, empty. Then I noticed mud on the floor near the hallway. Not a lot, just a few dirty footprints. Fresh enough that the dirt was still wet. I remember staring at them thinking, okay, somebody is actually in this house. Not maybe, not paranoia. Somebody had walked through our kitchen. Right when I pulled my phone out to call my dad, I heard something upstairs. It sounded like someone brushing against a wall. I looked up toward the hallway and saw movement for maybe half a second, like somebody pulling back out of sight. That's when I completely lost it. I called my dad, whispering because for some reason I thought whoever was upstairs could hear me. He kept saying, "What? Slow down." When he finally understood me, his voice changed immediately. He told me to leave the house now. Then I heard a heavy step directly above me. Not creaking floorboards, an actual footstep. Then another one. Slow. Like whoever it was knew I was downstairs. I backed toward the front door without taking my eyes off the ceiling, and right then I heard the back door open behind me again. I spun around expecting someone to be standing there. Nobody. The door was moving slowly like someone had just gone out seconds earlier. I ran barefoot, all the way down the dirt road carrying my phone and the knife like an idiot. I waited near the highway until my parents and the cops got there. Police searched the whole property, didn't find anyone, but they did find muddy footprints through the downstairs and inside the little storage closet near the laundry room. Nothing had been stolen. That's the part that still creeps me out. Whoever was in there wasn't trying to rob us. Before the cops left, one of them asked how long our dog had been gone. I told him about a week. He said they found older muddy tracks near the back of the house mixed with brown dog hair. I didn't sleep at home for almost a month after that because Rusty hated strangers, and if somebody had been coming around our house before that night, I honestly think Rusty was the reason we noticed too late.
The summer nights in the mountains were quieter than usual. My friend Mark and I decided it was time to try camping in one of the abandoned parks, far away from the usual crowded spots. We had found an old map at a local shop, and we were told that the park used to be full of activity until it was shut down due to a strange accident that occurred there. Even the trail leading to the site was unmarked in some places, and most of the map was unclear. But we were eager for the adventure, so we decided to go for it. We arrived in the early afternoon and started setting up camp. The park was full of thick bushes and tall trees all around us. The place seemed eerily quiet, almost too quiet. There were old paths, but they were overgrown, showing that the place had been abandoned for years. As we were sorting out our gear, we discovered something odd. Strange marks on the ground, like footprints that didn't belong there. We decided to go for a walk on the trail to see if we could figure out what was going on. Eventually, we made our way to one of the old towers in the park. It looked like it hadn't been used in a long time, but there were signs that someone had been there recently. There were strange things on the ground, like blood-covered handprints, and something about the place just didn't sit right with us. Then, from the distance, we noticed movement between the trees. We barely caught a glimpse of a group of people, maybe 4 or 5 of them, walking slowly through the forest. We were surprised to see anyone else out here, especially since no one was supposed to be at the campsite. From where we stood, we couldn't make out their faces, but we saw their figures moving through the woods. We tried pointing them out to Mark, but by the time he came over to look, they were gone, swallowed up by the forest. We figured we had imagined it and carried on with the day, talking and relaxing as the sun began to set. We built a small campfire and sat around it. The night was calm at first, just the sound of our voices and the crackling of the fire. Then, we heard something else. It was faint, but we both heard it. Voices, multiple voices, talking to each other. We couldn't tell what they were saying or even if they were speaking in our language. The voices came from way out in the trees, and that's what made it even more unsettling. Mark and I didn't know what to do, so we stayed still for a while, listening. The voices didn't move. They stayed in the same spot. Then, without warning, they went silent. The next minute was unnerving. We didn't hear them fade out or leave. They just stopped, like they were still there. Then there were footsteps, just one set, coming toward us. A few seconds later, a man walked out of the dark and into the light of our campfire. He had a distinct red baseball cap. His smile was wide as he approached us. "Do either of you know where the trail is around here?" I pointed ahead and told him where the trail was, but when he didn't move or say anything else, I asked, "Are the others with you?" His face dropped for a moment before he smiled again. He looked back toward where I had been looking and said, "I didn't know there were others out here. I've been hiking alone. I would have asked them for directions if I'd seen them." It was strange. I was sure he was lying. He came from the same direction we just heard the voices in. I just nodded, but something felt off. He smiled again and walked back toward the trail. Mark and I exchanged glances. We both knew something wasn't right. There was no way he came from the same direction as the voices and didn't know about them. But why was he lying? Why didn't he want to tell us about the others? We spent the next 30 minutes around the campfire, discussing what was going on. The whole time, I felt like we were being watched. I kept turning around, checking the trees and the trail. Something wasn't right. It didn't help that it was our first time so far out like this, and our nerves were already on edge. "Should we leave?" Mark finally asked, his voice shaky. I thought for a moment. "Yeah, let's go." We started packing, but the feeling only got worse. The more we packed, the more it felt like something was wrong. Just as we threw our bags on our shoulders and stomped out the campfire, a single footstep crunched behind me. We both whipped our heads around. Without the fire, it was pitch black. The woods were eerily silent now. For a moment, I hesitated. I fumbled for my flashlight in my backpack, took it out, and turned it on. There, standing only 10 or 15 feet in front of me, was the same man with the red baseball cap. He was staring at us, his blank expression unsettling. He wore that same wide smile, his eyes cold and lifeless. In a panic, I turned off the light and both of us sprinted toward the trail. Disturbingly, I could hear multiple footsteps behind us, some of them sounding like they were running through the woods beside us. The footsteps faded, but we kept running, desperate. We made it back to the car, out of breath but unharmed. We drove away, shaken but relieved. We still don't know what happened that night. Who was out there? Why were they hiding? It's been a long time since, but I don't think I'll ever go camping again. My uncle offered me his house while he vacationed in Europe. It felt like freedom handed to me. My aunt and cousin left first. He stayed behind. Said he had business. When he finished up, he handed me the keys. A few weeks alone, that was the deal. He knew I wanted to live alone. I thought this was my first real step. No friends, no hanging out in the yard. He was very specific. I figured it was the snow. Too much of it. Maybe he didn't want me getting hurt. He left the fridge packed, like I wouldn't need to step outside at all. At first, it was better than I imagined. Quiet, peaceful, mine. Everything felt perfect. Until the middle of the night. The noise woke me up. Not fear, just confusion. Like something testing the door. There was nothing there, just darkness. And that moonlight cutting through the room. I just stood there watching, not realizing something else was already happening. I just stood there watching, not realizing something else was already happening. Then I heard it again, from downstairs, from the front door. Maybe something hit the door. Just the wind. It had to be. I turned on every light. Then I checked the peephole. I opened it just a crack. The footprints led straight to me. I slammed it shut, locked it fast. Who would be out there? I ran to the back. I needed to see if someone was still there. Through the storm, I saw something small moving. Too small to be out there alone. When the wind eased for a second, I saw him clearly. It was just a kid. I was scared, but I couldn't ignore him. He didn't look older than 10. I called 911. Told them there was a kid outside in the storm. I stayed by the window, watching. But he was gone. We were in the kitchen when it happened again. A quiet knock. When the door opened, it was him, standing there again. He wasn't dressed for the weather, not even close. His face, it was empty, like he wasn't fully there. Weeks later, he said this was his house, that he lived here. 2 missing kids, same house, same timing. And my uncle always gone.